Nice.
This is so cool.
Do you mind being on live?
I don't care.
Make sure we're good. Which we'll show right here. Yes, we are good to go. All right, good evening, everybody. How's it going? For those that are watching and will eventually be watching, as you all know, my name is Omar T from the Table Talk crew. We got my big sis here, Abir Thabit, as well. And then we have Shema Ghalib, who is a guest co-host in the building as well. And then our guest for today is Hana Alasry. She is a premarital coach, that is. So today we are going to be discussing, basically premarital preparation. If you are looking to get married, or if you and your spouse are trying to settle down and basically take that next step, which is basically get married, she is here to talk about that and to give you some advice and give us some ideas of what we should do if you are looking into that. And so I just want to first of all say thank you, Hana, for being here. We really appreciate it. It was literally it was a coincidence how everything worked out. My sister was like, hey, reach out to this person. I think she would be down and she'd be perfect.
Scrolling on Instagram, I was like, bro, we were just talking about this.
You guys want to know what's crazy? You guys and I grew up with her.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Each other since we were good.
Like literally since we were babies.
I just asked, I was like, do you know Shema? She's like, yes, I do know Shema. So it is
very, very well, mashallah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, first of all, Hana, thank you for being here.
No problem. Thank you guys for having me.
For sure. And so, before we even get into the questions, I just want to first of all say, how can people contact you? How can people reach you if they wanted to reach you for any coaching, that is?
Or you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, you want to introduce yourself?
Assalamu alaikum to everyone watching. My name is Hana Alasry. I am actually a physician assistant by training, so I practice medicine, but coaching is my second passion. So I recently founded a life coaching company, and our mission is to help Muslims prepare and enrich their marriages and also to heal wounds from chronic childhood trauma. So if you're trying to reach me, I'm on Instagram at Sadim Life Coaching. Sadim, Salim. Life coaching. So that's the best way to reach me. I also have a public account for my physician assistant stuff, hana.pa. I think it's PA or PAC. Hana.pac. I just recently had to change the name. So you guys can reach me there.
Awesome. And why Salim, by the way? I was wondering the word why you picked Salim. I don't know, this is throwing it off, but go ahead.
Yeah. So the reason I actually chose Salim is because the life coaching, first and foremost, what I wanted to focus on was chronic childhood trauma. The marriage side came out of need and the fact that I thought that building a relationship with yourself helps you to build a relationship with other people. But Salim comes from the fact that the word Salim in Arabic, it essentially means something is whole. It's unscathed. If I take my phone and I drop it on the floor and I pick it up and the screen's not cracked, Husanam, I can say it's been affected by a tragedy. It's been dropped. It's been harmed. It's been through stuff, but it came out on the other side okay. So that's why I chose Saddam specifically. So it's not Sadim, it's not Saddam, it's Saddam for that reason.
Awesome. Well, for those that are also watching on Shay Strong's Instagram, you can watch there. I got it in front of me as well. You can feel free to ask questions. We'll be able to share them. And also, don't forget, we're also live on Oz Media 313 YouTube page. So you can go over there as well. And if you want to ask questions, I have both of those things in front of me. So feel free to do that. You can also call in. All right. And the number to call in is 313-306-1750. So if you do have a question, you can call in. Again, the number is 313-306-1750. And I got both of those things next to me. So if you want to comment and ask any questions, feel free to do that. And we can even share that with the panel. And before we start the show, of course, I got to give the shout outs to the sponsors, that is. And our first sponsor is Give to Gain. Give to Gain is a non-profit organization that sponsors orphans in Yemen. 100% of all their donations goes to the less fortunate. They just wanted to mention that they appreciate everyone who donates. They're very humble people that didn't want their names to be mentioned, but I can promise you and I can assure you that they are trustworthy people that are running that nonprofit organization, Give to Gain. And for those of you that are wondering why Yemen, it is the largest humanitarian crisis and aid operation. 5 million people are at risk of famine. 15 million need water or sanitation support. So thank you to Arif. He's not the guy that runs it, but he's the guy that wanted to bring light to the situation. So he's the one that put Give to Gain out there. So thank you so much, Arif, and we appreciate that. And now we can kind of get the show on the road. So if y'all ready, we are ready to go. And the first question we want to ask you, Hana, is so why is premarital preparation important? And then we could then discuss, what's the difference between premarital counseling and what you do. But first and foremost, why is premarital preparation important?
So the way I like to start answering this question is there's this really famous divorce lawyer, probably the most famous divorce lawyer in America at this point. His name is James Sexton, and I was listening to one of his lectures, and he said something that was so profound and interesting, but something we don't think about. So he said, if I was to tell you that when you walk outside of your house every day, you have a 50% chance of getting hit in the head with a bowling ball, would you leave your house? He said either most people would never leave their house, or at the very least, they would put on a helmet. So when you think about the fact that we have still a statistic of divorce at 50% in the United States, meaning one in every happy couple, and everyone's happy when they start, is going to end up with a marriage that ends in divorce. Why would we not prepare as much as we could to try to eliminate the odds or make the odds in our favor? So that's why premarital preparation is so important, because the stakes are so high. And when I think about premarital preparation, you're either going to prepare now or you're going to rectify later. So there's no running away from doing the work. You're either are going to do it when you're in a good place, you're going to invest in it, or you're going to do it in a time and place where it's a lot more emotionally difficult and it can cost a lot more too. So premarital preparation is something that we've neglected in our community for so long, and I just think that if it's something that if we don't get right and we don't emphasize the importance of, we're going to have a lot of people who are just afraid to get married. And when you think of it, marriage is one of the most emphasized sunnahs in our deen. And if marriage was something that was supposed to end in failure, was so disastrous, or it was supposed to have a 50% failure rate, it wouldn't be suggested or emphasized as much as it could. Right? We have a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ where he's telling young men, those of you who can, get married, and if you can't, fast. So there's something really interesting about the hadith in the sense of he's recommending this for everyone, because at some point, hopefully, everyone's going to have the means to get married. But then the other side of it, in this idea of fasting, we often think about it in the sense of, well, it's to maintain or contain sexual desire. That is part of it, obviously. That was what the Prophet ﷺ meant. But the interesting side of it as well is that fasting is a form of discipline. It's a way that we better ourselves if you're doing it right. So in my head, when I think of the infinite wisdom, that the Prophet ﷺ had receiving from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's also emphasizing premarital preparation. This fasting and this taking the time to get ready is premarital preparation. So one, it puts the odds of successful marriage in your favor. And two, I think it is a part of our deen that we've swept under the rug for a bit.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very, very great. Appreciate that answer. I don't know, Shema, if you want to add on anything. You're looking at her the whole time, and we haven't heard you say anything yet, Shema.
My girl.
Okay. So thank you for sharing that. And so I guess, do you want to touch on more about what is the difference, I guess, between the two, or I guess you did it. Go ahead.
Yeah, we can. So a lot of times when people think about premarital preparation, they're thinking about premarital counseling. So premarital counseling is more so the type of preparation that happens when you already have someone that you think you're going to marry. So either you're engaged, sometimes in the Muslim community, since we're a little new to this, it can happen after the aqd or the nikah, or after the actual official marriage, but before the wedding and before the couple moves in together. So that's what it is. You have two people who already are committing to getting married, and then you're using that opportunity to hash out issues, to think about what it is that we disagree on, what are the roles that we're looking to get, what are our expectations of marriage, and so on. Premarital preparation is a lot more broad. So this can happen for people who have already had their official marriage done, but haven't moved in, like we said, people who are engaged or people who are looking. Or it can also, and this is the interesting thing, it can happen before you have even ever met someone, but you think, hey, I want to be married at some point in the future. And in my opinion, that is the absolute best way to go about it. So like I said, I'm a medical provider by nature. My favorite patients are the patients who are taking care of their health before anything bad happens. They're the patients who are focusing on their healthy eating, and they're focusing on their physical activity, and they're taking care of their mental health before they get diabetes, before they end up with high cholesterol. So I want to take that and normalize it when it comes to our relationship with, again, ourselves and with others.
All right, that's awesome. And we have Glamour Chiming again saying her first time on YouTube Live. Yeah, welcome to YouTube Live. She said thank you and no problem. And I just want to mention that because she is going to be on our show next week as well. When we talk about inshallah, when we talk about knowing our worth, right? And we're going to definitely get into that next week. But thank you for answering those questions. I don't know if you guys want to add on something. I'm going to keep asking y'all to add on because really we have the questions for her and then you guys can just chime in as well. So
Yeah, I just think it's very long overdue that we have something like this. A lot of people go into a wedding or into a marriage thinking about the wedding or thinking about, oh, I'm going to get to have freedom or whatever. And then the guys are thinking about, oh, I'm going to have somebody, cook for me, clean for me, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So a lot of them don't even know what they're signing in for. You know what I'm saying? Like what they're going to get out of it that's like lawfully, Islamically,
Yeah.
And it needs to happen, and I'm glad that there's something like this. And the idea of even going to this class before you even have someone and working on yourself, because a lot of people need to work on themselves first. Because you can't give love to someone if you don't love yourself. You can't,
I want you to look at the camera one more time when you say that. You gotta say that one more time and look in the
I'm
camera.
here for it, and I'm happy this is happening.
Alhamdulillah. It's funny because I recently just posted something on my Instagram, which is one of our biggest failures as a society is we've invested more in our weddings than we have in our marriages. And when you think of it, again, that bowling ball analogy that we gave in the very beginning is marriage is it is possibly the most vulnerable relationship that you will have. The other thing that I can think about is a mother and child. That's an other vulnerable situation. But it's such a vulnerable and emotionally intimate situation. And the issue that we have is we've romanticized this idea of marriage with no facts backing up that romanticization. 100%. There's nothing else in the world that we have done this to besides marriage. And when you think about it, right, we think, oh my God, this is a person that's going to change my life. This is a person, they're going to make me better. I hate hearing that. Nobody's going to make you better. The only person that's going to make you better is you. That's nobody else. It's no one else's responsibility, and no one else can do it, because if you weren't going to change beforehand, you're not going to change after. And here's why. As emotionally vulnerable as you are going to be in a marriage, and I don't need to be married to say this. This is me looking at the research. This is me looking at statistics. This is me hearing secondhand from people who have had disastrous 100%. Situations, and it's not far and few between that these situations have happened. You enter into the most emotionally vulnerable relationship, and when you are emotionally vulnerable, you are tense. Your sympathetic nervous system, meaning your fight or flight response, kicks in during those times. And guess who comes out? The purest version of you comes out. Yes. So if that's a person that you haven't worked on, then the angry you is going to come out. The resentful you is going to come out. The hateful you is going to come out. The one that says horrible things to a person, even when you love them, is going to come out. That's who's going to come out. And you can't maintain a relationship when you have that. So no one's going to make you better if you're not actually taking the time to make yourself better beforehand.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that the purest you will come out. A lot of people also go into relationships being this person that they want to be, but they're not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, or you see this person for their potential. And that's not the person that they are, So I feel like this will work if you're true to yourself. I'm sorry. You're true to yourself and you're honest and vulnerable by yourself before you can be that with somebody else.
Yeah. And we can, there's a balance that can be struck in the sense of we can recognize that everyone has room for growth. None of us are perfect. I need to grow. You need to grow. Everyone needs 100%. To grow. But the issue is just like what you're saying, when we see people for their potential, not for what they are. You're going to be living with who that person is right now for X amount of time until they reach their potential. Are you okay with that? We don't actually think about that, and oftentimes we are pressuring people to make this huge decision because they're getting older, or because so and so has this much money, or so and so is this good looking. But that person that they are, you're going to be living with that, and so are you comfortable with that? And if we were really to, I truly believe if we were to actually be authentically honest about that when we're talking to people, instead of saying, oh my gosh, look how great they look on paper, a really good job, very good car, whatever it is, then we would save a lot of people from some emotionally devastating experiences.
If you guys, two things. If y'all start seeing me writing stuff down, it's probably because my wife is watching and I don't want her to yell at me, and I want to make sure I take notes and learn from this whole situation. No, but Shayma, I kind of want to put you on the spot if that's okay. And are you okay with me putting you on the spot?
Yeah, man.
Okay. Because you mentioned something that was important right before we went live, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to ask her this. And you said that, our job at Table Talk is to have conversations to make people uncomfortable being uncomfortable. And I just want to ask you this, Shayma, and this is what it's all about, because you're not the only one that's in this shoes in terms of maybe feeling the way that you're feeling. So that's why it's great to share these kind of stories. So why did you come in here and then say, like, this is a conversation that you're not comfortable with?
Well, also knowing you can be as vulnerable as you want to be, or as little as.
Yes, by the way, knowing that too. I don't mean to
You don't
put you on the
have to
spot,
overshare
Shayma, but
anything. Yeah,
I know
you
that
don't
you
have
have
to
a
share
strong
All right,
voice.
so this is how I look at it. All right, and all that cute emotional stuff, let's save it for the birds.
Okay.
That's
But
her line, you guys. When I start doing
yeah, wait for the birds.
You guys
I think
want
that
me-
is.
Want me to do
Yeah.
the drums?
Where
Where is your? I think don't we need? And you know what? Last week when we were gonna cry and stuff, you should have definitely used our sound effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That we talk so much about the side effects.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, so the question at hand. So basically, I feel like, and this is not just with marriage, or this is just like relationships in general. I think just like, just having that vulnerability, that connection with somebody. I think our society, our community, we're not at the level where we can have those conversations, and somebody is able to be understood, and somebody's able to be looked at with respect, and actually have that back and forth with. So coming with that background, I mean, I've always been very outspoken. I've always been that person that speaks. I've always been that whatever. But I've always had, because of that, it comes off of very intimidating, or very too outspoken, or too strong, right? And then when you think about strength, when you think about intimidation, when you think about like this aura, usually that tendency comes from the male gender. Like, it's something that the men deal with, or the men carry. And then you have this little 4'11" girl that's a firecracker, and I'm just like doing me. So I don't put up with a lot of stuff. So for me, marriage has always been something that I viewed as, and Hana, don't even give me anything right now.
What?
But
Say anything or anyway.
but marriage is, and I mean, like, honestly, with these viewers that are gonna have it from my perspective, marriage has always been something that I've just like kind of like not avoided, but avoided in a sense. Like, I mean, I feel like I'm at a level where it's not resonated with a lot of people, or the type of person that I am, where it's not level-headed with a lot. So it's just, for me, it's not something that I want to like invest in, or it's not something that I want to entertain. If it happens.
Do you feel like that you would lose a part of you if you
No.
were content, or
I feel like I'm great.
no, I'm saying if you got married, like if you,
I don't think
are
I
you
lose
gonna-
myself, but
Okay.
I feel like it's gonna be very, very hard for like the identities to match, because like so, and then here's another thing that I was gonna mention beforehand, but like this whole idea of self-care, self-love, or whatever, it needs to change. It needs to change. Like this right here, this is self-love. This is self-care. So this whole idea of like, let's go get our nails done, or let's go get a massage, or let's go even this way. Like
Listen, I love massages, stop playing.
I do too, but it's not the idea of self-care. I mean, yes, in a sense, but like mentally,
Yeah.
like it's you're only working on one ailment. When if you can work on the motherboard, or like the actual source of where the problems stem off of, I think that would be a better investment. So I genuinely believe that we have a lot of like shifting that we need to do. And I mean, like, for me, and I mean, like, obviously we already know that even doing this this talk and being in this podcast and stuff, we're beating the bunch. We're setting the norms or stuff like that. And I feel like we're just not there yet. We're not at the level where a strong alpha female can still have her identity and not make a man quiver and shiver.
No, I understand.
And
That's that.
from a guy's perspective, I can agree to you. Like, I still haven't found a guy who is, I don't want to say open, but is going to, act like that he doesn't care about that.
Right, and you know what?
Push it away.
And Amar, you know what just drives me insane? It's like we're the most vulnerable. Like, it's like the strongest. It's because of the leadership that we entail. It's the leader in me, and because of that, it's the nurturing. But because I don't take BS, I don't understand why that is an intimidating factor. Almost, you know what I mean? But like, to each its own, and you use your pros and you use your cons to the best of your ability. And now we're shedding light on the things that we can work on. But I use everything to my advantage. Like, I literally say I'm 4'11", but the attitude's 6'7". Like, it's not going nowhere. You know what I mean? So
That's interesting that you bring that
Hold on, I just wanted to give some claps right there. There we go. There we go. I'm working on it. I'm working on the sound effects. But go ahead now. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say in response to that, or kind of piggybacking off of that, right? My job when it comes to the premarital preparation is to help those who actually are seeking marriage or want marriage in their future. And one thing to think about too is when we have, and this is not targeted towards you, Tim. This is for anyone who has these feelings, because at the end of the day, you're right. Part of self-care, and I completely get where you're coming with that. I agree. The way that we have molded this idea of self-care to be a very capitalistic and
very capitalistic,
instead
very
of
marketed.
Instead of thinking about the internal side, which is what the work is that I'm doing. It takes away from the work that has to be done. So one part of that is, if anyone watching this has any feeling of either, whether it's fear around marriage, whether it's a sense of I'm not going to be accepted, whether it's feeling like my identity is going to have to change or whatsoever, to sit with that, or what I'm urging people to do, sit with that and to think about where that's coming from, because that is, and you might not realize it, that it's coming from some sort of trauma somewhere.
I'll tell you where it's coming from. I'll tell you exactly. Can we put myself back on the spot?
It's so, but this is for people, because a lot of I hear this a lot from women, especially. It's like, I don't need anyone, blah blah. That is coming from a point of trauma, right?
It is trauma.
Exactly.
1,000,000%.
100%.
And Hannah, you know what's crazy?
That's why she told me, she's like, don't look at it.
I know this, and that's why when have you ever, like, literally, guys, it's 2021, which is crazy. Like, we're literally in, I don't even know West Central anymore, because that's how freaking long this. But whatever, we've been here forever, and this is the first time somebody in our community was like, hey, you know what? Let's start working. Let's start working on ourselves. Let's start doing the work internally. And that's huge, because, like, I'll tell you what mine was. And that's why I said, can we put it back on me? Because I've literally had people tell me, oh, Alasry, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Like, I'm like, but you literally just told me 2 seconds ago you're intimidated by me. So now why are we saying Alasry? Why are you calling me a miskina? Like, why? Why does titles weigh out every single thing in this community, and then it molds the person that's receiving it? So like me, like I said 2 seconds ago, it's not something that I entertain at all. Like, period. If it's like maybe even a candidate, I'll tell you the order on how to do it or not. Like, there's no emotions involved. There's no, you can't anymore, because it's just at this point in your life, like, I literally got okay with kind of getting bullied, but like I was always the bully, so I never got myself to the point where it was actually going to affect me. I just learned from it. And I was very, very specific. I was like, okay, before it starts hurting, you need to step back. And now there's something that's literally telling me, hey, Shama, you know that trauma that you have? Like, let's work on it. Yeah. Let's deal with that anger. Let's deal with that stemming.
Not necessarily for a relationship. Again, if you're looking for a relationship, yes, please deal with the trauma. But this is outside of things, because as you can see, traumatic experiences and how it affects you and how it affects your self-image is going to affect your ability to even have a relationship. This is why I told you guys chronic childhood trauma is the other side of the work I do, because if you can't have a healthy relationship.
Very, very hand in hand.
Yeah, very much so.
Oh, so it's explosive. Well. It's explosive if it's not dealt with.
Well, there you go. Thank you. We got right into the conversation, and that's what it's all about. And I told y'all my wife was watching. She put LMAO, so she laughed at the joke. And then Glamour wanted to chime in and say, you know, thank you for looking in the camera, talking about you can't love anyone else. You love yourself and know thyself, and kind of go hand in hand with what we should be talking about, inshallah, next week. And then she agreed with you. It's hard topic to talk about, especially within our own people. You know, I see why the topic on life can be a bit intimidating, as Shay Strong just mentioned. So, and
I wanna chime in there too. It's not just our community. This is across. Right. This is Western societies, Eastern societies. This is at the wealthy and poor communities. It is very difficult, because we do not like to look at the ugly sides of what makes our communities. And families are at the center of the community, and the family starts with a husband and a wife, right? Islamically. Yeah. So it is something we are far behind on. Even the idea of marital counseling, actually marriage counseling, there is a lot of data of it not being the most effective. Why? Because people are still coming at the end road of their issues. They've already lit the fire, and you're just watching the house burn down, and they're now coming with their fire hydrants, right? So even in what we would consider some of the most advanced institutions, this work is still happening. The nice thing about me doing it as coaching and not as counseling is I get to innovate. I get to say, you know what? I don't want to do premarital. I don't want to do marital. I'm going to do it before anyone even decides to get married. I can do that, right? And so we're still learning, and there's a very long road ahead of us. But our Deen and our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was an innovator, and the thing about it is, Islam has everything that we need. It's whether or not we're able to recognize it and through what lens. When I said that premarital preparation, the Prophet ﷺ already did that. It would just take someone to sit there and do the research and pull the framework out and be like, hey, this is how he did it. Right? Same thing if we were to say, how do you raise your family prophetically? We know that there's a way. It just takes people to sit there and sit through and say, hey, here's how we did it. Here's the framework. This is what scholarship is about. I'm not a scholar. I'm just saying that this is the process through which we're able to actually obtain the knowledge from the Quran and the authentic Sunnah and use it to our advantage to guide our lives.
The crazy thing is if you do
Speak
follow...
up to have a
I'm sorry. I'm like hardly talking because, there's a guest today and I lost my voice. But anyways, it's crazy because if you do follow the Sunnah and you do follow, the rules, it's the easiest way for you to get so much good deeds, but it's also the easiest way you can get so much sins if you're not doing it the right way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I want to throw something else out there too. I'm all about caveats because there's one of my favorite words, nuance. There's a lot of nuance when it comes to self-development. When you're entering into the world of premarital preparation, when you actually say, you know what, I want to do everything that I can to stack the odds in my favor. I want to ensure that when I'm coming to my marriage, I'm coming to with the best version of myself that I can at that time. I'm trying to heal the things that I need to heal in myself. I'm trying to make sure I have my mindset right, that I'm emotionally mature, and I want to do it in a systematic way that works. That doesn't mean that your marriage is going to succeed. That's like one of the hard pills that I can't guarantee that for you. What I can guarantee is you're going to be a really great partner.
Yeah.
Regardless of what situation ends up happening.
The thing I always tell everyone, you cannot control what happens to you, but you can control how you react. You can control how you act. Mm-hmm. So if you do what you got to do, you'll leave the situation, you'll leave the relationship knowing that I did what I can do and to the best of the ability that I know. And it's okay. It is what it is.
Yeah. And there is a very high degree of success that can even come from you being the only one that does the work. And I know people don't want to talk about that, but this is something that's actually pretty well known in counseling circles as well. When it comes to marriage counseling, so let's say one spouse refuses to do the work, but you decide you are going to. You can save a marriage that way because a good person, I should say, is not going to see the person that they love doing this work and trying to make it work and sit back, hands behind their head, like, oh, what, I'm not.
And if they are, then leave them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So, literally. If they're really, if it's to that point where you're sitting here trying to make it work and you're doing what you can, and like you said, no normal, nice person or well-minded person
is going to watch that and not do anything.
And if they don't,
so and ultimately, obviously, it's a lot more difficult of a decision to make, and you make the decision based on circumstances.
You're gonna do all the work.
But it benefits you either way to do the work on yourself. And
listen, ladies.
As you can see, we have different ways because there's a balance that has to come into it, and you always have to be mindful of when you light the match to set something on fire or to end something.
Yeah.
Because there's always there are multiple things that happen before that, and it's never there's a hadith that I always love, which is hastiness is from the devil, right? This idea of rushing towards something or trying to do something immediately can be influenced by the shaitan trying to make you sway in a way that can be harmful to you. So take your time. I can be a bit of a hasty person, so I've learned my lesson quite a few times with that. But that's what I would have to say for that.
All right. I just want to say two things. Number one, you can tell everybody's from 6 Mile. She just straight up says, leave it, dude. Leave somebody if you can't get together. Then Yusuf, my brother, chimes in and says, any advice on getting married? He is still 16, turning 17. My advice is get back to work, and please do not worry about that right now. And worry about going to school and work right now and being an athlete.
I'm going to push back on that.
Yeah, you know what? I want to say something about that. I really do. Because I have a brother that's very, very vocal about that. And you guys, Isa, we'll get Isa eventually on the show. But my brother Isa is he's been that guy that's saying, I remember, like as a kid, always, I'm gonna get married young. I'm gonna get married. I want to get married in high school. I want to get married. I want to get married. Okay, he's the youngest of four, and mind you, my mom had us back to back, so he's the youngest of us, and we literally look at him like the baby when in reality he's just 2-3 years younger than me. So, long story short, he ended up getting like engaged before anyone of like anybody in the family. Like he actually he is actually the first boy in my family to get engaged, which is huge, from all of like the nieces and nephews, cousins, all that good stuff. And this whole idea of like waiting until you're like established, or waiting until you're ready, you have your career, or you're invested or whatever, that's complete 100% BS.
I'm gonna push back on that too. We're doing a lot of pushing back too.
And I think, hold on, and I'll tell you guys why. I'll give you guys my little 2 cents. I think it is so hypocritical to tell somebody that the time that you should look into investing into somebody else is when you yourself is content, like you yourself is good. Now, this is what I mean. Especially when you're into the developmental growth. Okay, if I meet, like, let's say I have a partner, right? I would much rather know my partner through his residency or through his med school or whatever, the journey, than meeting him third year of his fellowship, or third year of his
third year of his fellowship. I'm not doing the med school.
Or whatever the case may be. I don't want him already, in it or working on it or whatever. Why? Because I literally missed out on a big milestone in this person's life that I feel like that I could have been a part of. It's just this whole idea that comes behind it. Now then I look at people like my brother Isa. Now my brother Isa, I told you he's the youngest. Okay, so he's working, he's saving his money, he's doing his thing. He's not getting married. Like, he's not gonna get married until he's content, until he has what he has. But the starting of it, he started it. He got engaged. He's doing the things right. He has a head-on relationship. He does the work, and that's the idea. It doesn't and you said this earlier, but like that whole rushing process, it doesn't need to rush when you already set stuff in stone. So do I believe that somebody needs to start the whole idea of a relationship at the point where now they're already done with their life and they've already did most of their growth? No, I don't. I think that's so wrong, of like this whole idea of, oh, you have to be, your degree and that's it, and then you think about marriage. Like this idea, like what you're doing to all of these men mostly, and it's coming to the men. It's like you're setting them up to make them at this level, or marriage is not on the tables for them. And I think that's very, very wrong. I think that's very, very wrong for the community to do, because these men have great potential. They just don't have the dollar sign to back it up, or they don't have the means, or whatever the case that you think is appropriate to bring to the table. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so that's why I was just let me finish, because there's 100%. There's so much that these ideas, like, yes, don't get me wrong. Who wouldn't want a person that's like that got their ish together, for real? But at the same time, is that like your definiting factor? Like, oh, he has to be established, or well, I'm not? Think about it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna let you go ahead, because you said you're gonna push back on a couple things that you just said.
And then I'll end it.
Yeah. So it's a complicated subject, right? So the thing I was gonna push back is is just making sure that we don't shut down younger people who are interested in getting married, because then it will eliminate an opportunity that they're trying to take to develop themselves before marriage. So just being mindful of our language around that doesn't necessarily mean that I think that every time a 15 or 16-year-old says, I want to get married, and be like, yeah, let's go find you someone, necessarily. So, right, so it's ensuring, because when I'm talking premarital preparation, I want this to be younger and younger. I really want people to start thinking from earlier stages, what do I need to do to improve myself in order to be able to build that? Going back to the hadith that I mentioned earlier, when the Prophet ﷺ was talking about the preparation. Now that's where age comes into play, and I think each and every one of us can say that we have changed tremendously throughout our lives, and ideally for the better, and we become ideally more emotionally mature, and with time comes those experiences that change you, and hopefully if you use them to the right extent, because Allah presents the challenges, you, like you were saying, you do with them what you do, and you hopefully improve yourself through them, right, and bring yourself closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and make yourself a better version of yourself. So it takes time to get to that, and we sometimes romanticize the idea of younger marriage, and that can be dangerous insofar as we do not live in a society that prioritizes maturity for young people. Now, the Prophet ﷺ was a very different time. You had 13-year-olds in the army, but the 13-year-old during the Prophet's time was like a 30-year-old in our time in the sense of the responsibilities they took on and so on and so forth. Now, the other thing I will say is, Shaima's using the example of her brother. Mabruk to him, by the way. I didn't know he got engaged. And I don't know him super personally. What I do notice is from what I do know of him, he put in a lot of work on himself.
He did.
Yes. And the time and effort. So he, for me, is an outlier more than anything in the sense of someone who is young. And I think when we hear young people say, I want to get married, that's what we need to look for.
Right.
Right. Is exactly what your brother is doing. Someone who's serious. And when it comes, and I know some of the previous questions you guys asked me about was rights, and I don't like to get too much into like what are the rights of a husband. There's a lot of information on that. You can find YouTube videos by scholars and who can help you sort that out. But one right that a man has to fulfill in Islam is he needs to financially be prepared to actually hold on a household. And it's a very basic baseline of what he needs to be able to maintain a home. That means bills. That means he needs to, when it comes to transportation, kind of what is average for the place that he's living in: food, shelter, clothing, and safety. So if that is not something that a young person is able to do, I think part of what parents need to ensure is that they are not entertaining their young teenagers' immaturity by saying, yeah, I'll do everything for you, I'll pay for the wedding. But teach your kids to grow up a little, because when they're entering into that very vulnerable relationship, they're going to have to be grown-ups. And there is a romanticized version kind of like growing through very hard times and as someone's growing up. But also statistically, there's a much higher likelihood of divorce from that. Why? Because you're dealing with emotionally immature people. So I guess the crux of it is if they are doing the work, like what Shame is mentioning, and they're young, that we don't discount it. And we encourage that growth early on, while also setting boundaries to ensure that, like we should as a society, we're protecting younger people from making decisions that can be destructive. Now, I would rather you get married young, go through a divorce, than you commit zina. That's a whole other side of things, which a lot of times the rush to get married isn't this, oh my God, I want to have a life partner. Sometimes it's that, and in the society we live in, I can completely understand where that's coming from. So it's complicated, but those are just my thoughts on that matter.
Before I pass it on to you, so there's a couple things I want to touch upon. So number one,
I realized we didn't answer the young guy's question. He asked how to prepare for getting married. Get your money out in order. Really think about what you want your life to be and think long term. What do you want a family to look like? What do you want to be doing 10 years from now, 20 years from now as a profession, but also as a passion? What do you want your relationship with your family to look like? Are you thinking about how you've developed in your dating relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Working on that and really getting that in order for a long time. When you do that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to pour the barakah in your life, and one of the best ways He does it is through your family. There's another hadith that talks about one of the best forms of rizq is a righteous wife. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives that beautiful rizq to those who are able to hold the responsibility of it. So sorry, I just didn't want to ignore his question.
No problem. Thank you so much. So you're getting shout outs, by the way. That's what I want to also. First of all, people are saying awesome things about self-development and taking your time and stuff like that. So I just want to share that. And then Adil Mu'zab, who was a person that I've interviewed in the past. Shout out to Adil, a great guy, by the way. He wanted to get an overview. Basically, what we're talking about is premarital preparation, and with the premarital coach, that is Hana Alasry. Obviously, you got the Table Talk crew here. We're live on Shay Strong, and then we're also live on Oz Media 313 YouTube page. You can check us out on either one. We are here, so that's kind of where we're at, and we kind of... only a couple of questions in, not even. I think we're only one question in, and we could talk about the master class towards the end. If that'd be better, like we could just mention that towards the end, and then kind of could wrap it up that way, because she does have a master class coming up on October 10th, correct? On Sunday, October 10th, but she'll tell you more about that. You just gotta stay tuned in. And so, are we fine with moving on to the next question?
Yeah, you hit everything on the nail. It's by person. If you're mature enough and you know what you want out of the relationship and you did your research, and it's not just your mom wanting you to get married, then go ahead and do it. So.
All right, and so I guess moving on to the next question we want to ask you, Hannah, is I guess what are the goals? And I know you kind of touched on it, but now you
Yeah.
kind of could focus on this question more. Is what are the goals of premarital preparation? Like if you were to tell a guy, or if there's like a lady who's trying to tell her, future spouse, or not even at that point yet, but like, hey, why should they go through premarital preparation? Because, not a lot of people are going to be like, okay, I'm,
Yeah.
excited about
Yeah.
premarital preparation, but I'm going to be honest with you.
A lot of people. A funny thing is, are more apt to it. Either once they get into a relationship and they realize how difficult it is, or after a relationship ends and they think, I don't want this to happen again. So, what are the goals of premarital preparation? So, the one goal is to help you to assess where your actual expectations of a marriage are. Another is to help you build a vision, which you guys heard me talk about in the previous, in response to the question that was given. Help you build a vision for your marriage, and not a little, oh my God, I want to be a happy family. Actually, what is your vision? If you were to think about, when I wake up, this is what I want to happen. When I come home, this is what I want to happen. This is what I want my home to look like. This is how many kids I have. And I know you can't control how many kids you have. It's that's not what this is about. The idea of, if you were actually to build a vision, when you do that, you are now forcing yourself to be intentional towards working towards that vision. Another part of premarital preparation is helping you to assess what kind of partner you want, and then what kind of partner is going to help you get towards your vision,
goals. Yeah.
towards your vision for your family, and part of that is your life goals. And then ideally trying to make those mesh as much as you can. There's always going to be a little give and take. There's always going to be things that can be flexible. So that's part of it. And then another part of it is assessing your past trauma, your emotional responses, the things that have messed you up that are going to possibly they are going to reemerge in a relationship, and how to do the work so that either they don't emerge because you've dealt with them and you've healed them, or when they do emerge, they're not explosive, they're not destructive, they're not completely tearing your relationship apart, right? And so these are all the different aspects of premarital preparation. Like I said, if you don't do it beforehand, you're going to do it at some point. You speak to anyone who is in a relationship, whether it's a happy, healthy relationship, or it's a relationship that's struggling, or it's a relationship that ended. They will all tell you the same thing. Do the work. There is a study that was actually done. It's one of the only studies, as far as I know, unless another one came out, on divorce in the Muslim community. And one of the things that this study concurred was an overwhelming majority of those who divorced said that one thing they believed would have prevented divorce for them was doing that premarital preparation. And it was in the context of counseling, but the idea of, had someone warned me what to look out for, had someone sat me down and prepared for more than, hey, wear this, or hey, buy your wife this, whatever it might be. If someone had actually taken the time to do that, I would have, at the very least, had the opportunity to go into this feeling a little more prepared for challenges. Or on the other side, let's say you decide this person isn't for you after that and you end it. Alhamdulillah, that's a bullet you dodged. I know it's heartbreaking, and I know without doubt there are people on here that have had an engagement broken off, or were interested in someone and it didn't work. 100%, I know that if I had to guess, 70% of people had this experience in their lifetime. It's heartbreaking, it's hard, I know it sucks, but Allah protected you from something that you could not have imagined, because it was just not intended to be, and Allah is not going to allow something to be that's going to pull you away from Him. Yes. So that's part of it, and it ends up being a learning lesson for you, because guess what? I bet you it revealed to you things about you that you didn't know. I bet you the ugly side of you came out, and you realized, hey, I have some things I need to work on. And now the next time, inshallah, you have a good template of what to improve. And it just makes it that much better.
So, Hannah, when I hear you talking, the whole time I'm like, they got to be honest. They got to be honest. Mm-hmm. They got to be honest. A lot of people want to be the person that they think that person wants. Right? Mm-hmm. So when they go like, okay, what's your vision? And then they're like, well, what do you want? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you're not being true to yourself. You're literally trying to fit this mold of what the other person wants because you want to be with that person, know? And I cannot stress how important it is to be yourself, find yourself, know who you are. I got married right after high school. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know who I was. Yeah. The whole, my mother groomed me for my husband. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And we need to stop that. We really need to know who we are. We need to be honest with ourselves. We need to know what our vision is, with and without.
And knowing that your vision can change too. That's okay.
Like compromise. And
exactly. But your vision can adjust. And the reason I say that is because it can be daunting when you're younger to think, oh my God, I have to build this vision for my entire life. you can bend
an
a
idea,
vision. Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
All right, that is awesome. Shema, did you want to add on something to anything that was just mentioned as well? She's here. Shema Ghalib is here with us right now.
Shema, there is someone for everyone. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
So.
You guys can see this is not one of my favorite conversations.
Alhamdulillah.
So I'm just,
Do you want to list off that way we can just touch on them, the question?
Do you want me to move on? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just I'm gonna keep hitting this. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I hope it
it's
doesn't,
fine.
like,
It's fine.
reverb
Yep.
into the-
All right. So, I guess my next question is, what are the biggest challenges couples, basically come to you for premarital preparation with?
So, one is, and this is I don't know if to call it a challenge, but it can present itself as a challenge. You've already chosen someone. I love that smile on your face. You've already chosen someone, but it wasn't for the reasons of compatibility.
Right.
That can be a challenge because now you have to negotiate what is it that I'm willing to let go to be with this person because you hadn't gone into it already knowing whether or not you guys were compatible. And compatibility can be adjusted. There are certain things that are not going to change as much. There are certain things that are. A lot of things are flexible, and sometimes we paint relationships as if they're very rigid, and there's a lot that can be done to make things work, and it's going to happen. Unfortunately, the one necessary item of any relationship is that there are going to be sacrifices that have to be made. You're going to have to let go of something that you thought you weren't going to let go of, and this is something that I've heard from counselors. This is something I've heard from individuals who are married who have very, very healthy relationships, relationships that I admire, and I say I want my marriage to look like that, and from people who have gone through divorce. So it's something that is across the board understood. You're not going to get everything you want. If you think you're going to get everything you want, then go, please, to some sort of, take the master class, because you need to grow up a little bit.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
it's hard. There is a lot of bending that happens because it's like
It's a give and take.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's the craziest social experiment when you think of it. You take two complete. You guys are brother and sister, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys fight?
all the time.
Okay, you guys.
We work together too. It's crazy.
You guys live in the same household, I'm assuming.
No.
Not anymore.
No,
Yeah.
no, like when you were younger.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, grew up with the same parents, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay, very similar environment, similar value system if you're in the same family, right? And you guys still fight.
I mean, gender.
I know to that extent, but in the
this.
sense of right,
Yeah,
there was some
definitely.
sort of value structure that
So
was
you're
there.
thinking we're gonna be, but we have different.
And you guys fight like siblings fight.
Yeah.
Now imagine taking two people, different families, different, and even if they are from the same extended family, you're still growing up with different families, different value systems, different environments, different passions, different roles, different personality types, different genetics, and then you're putting them together, and then you're expecting things are going to be fine and dandy.
Yeah.
Throw that out the window. Nobody has, and if we have to build this kind of realistic sense of what it's going to look like, and that's a social experiment. So when you see it as that, like, hey, two different people, we're coming together. It's kind of like a work environment in a sense, where you put coworkers together. We got to figure out how to make this work. The blessing is in if you ever get a chance reflecting on in the Quran the way Allah Subhanahu wa Taala describes marriage. So many different verses, right? So there's a verse about the idea of the spouses being a garment to each other, right? There's a sense of protection and a covering of one's like privacy in the sense of this person isn't supposed to badmouth you or expose you to other people, even when they know the worst of you, which you're going to know the worst of a person, right? There's the idea of mawadda and rahma, this very compassionate love that's really only ever used outside of marriage. It's used to describe the love that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has for his servants, right? So this mawadda and then rahma being a very heavy type of mercy. Those two things I really believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed because the social experiment would go awry if it wasn't there. Like imagine what a disaster would be if you didn't actually, if there wasn't love or mercy in those relationships. So that's what you kind of fall back on, but not romantically in the sense of like, not romanticizing it in the sense of you have these things and it's fine, it's going to be fine. No, there's also a set of skills you have to have.
Yes.
All right, I just wanted to make sure that, if everything was okay. Just wanted to check in there, but thank you so much for that. And were you a teacher before or no? Like, did you work in a school or anything like that?
So are one of my students asking?
Yeah, Khalid Hussein, who's another great kid, by the way.
Yeah.
She was my teacher in high school for a college class.
Yeah,
said
I was a
Miss Hannah.
professor and I did a dual enrollment course.
Mashallah.
Yeah. So I always say I like have a teacher's heart.
I can feel it.
We're both teachers.
Yeah, we can
Oh,
feel it.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm a PE teacher. She's a first grade teacher. As you can see, her hands movement and everything like that.
Listen.
She's a first grade teacher. I mean, she's a teacher.
That's the Yemeni in me.
Khalid Hussein, great guy, by the way, great guy. So, you got anything you want to comment off of that too, or are we gonna keep the ball rolling? Because we appreciate you, Hannah, for being here. Done an awesome job so far, and alhamdulillah for everything. And so we can move on. So, what has been the general reaction? I thought this was important to ask because, I think she was thinking this too, and we talked about this, and we wanted to know, what has been the general reaction from the young people, and mostly, I guess, their parents, to premarital work, because, are you Yemeni, by the way? I don't want to,
Yeah, maybe.
Yemeni, because you know how Yemeni, kind of old school thinking, and, what is this premarital work? Zoe Gubas,
Yeah.
So, what?
And we have to understand also. So sometimes it's helpful if we understand where they're coming from in the sense of our parents' generations and the generations before were coming into a situation where gender roles were very rigid. So we knew exactly, and that. Let me think of how to word this so I don't get dragged in the comments. It was harmful in certain situations when it's abused. It's helpful in other situations because a person knows what they're getting themselves into. That's what I'll say. Okay? So very objectively, when you think just pragmatically, if I know ABC is my responsibility, then I know that ABC is my responsibility and I know what I'm maintaining. So that's what I'm going to say about that. They're also living in a cultural environment where the culture is known and respected by everyone. Everyone knows that in Yemeni culture you do XYZ or you don't do XYZ. And you are you understand similar values and you have similar ideas about things. You have ideas about how your family should be structured and what kind of jobs are appropriate and what jobs are not appropriate and so on. That makes things a lot easier. But now we're living in a time and place where you now have people who are cross-fusion cultures. On top of that, the world is changing very, very fast. On top of that, we have a vast amount of information that we are exposed to. Education also, furthers your exposure to certain things. And so now you have expanded people's identities in a sense. And so now there's even more complexity to trying to get along with someone. So I say that just to help us understand kind of where they're coming from. And sometimes our generations accepted things that they should not have accepted in terms of that, but it is what it is. We understand that when it comes to those things, survival oftentimes was the priority. But then there are people that had really amazing relationships, and that's something to learn from. So I haven't really gotten much reaction from parents. I'm sure they'll be very thankful if their kids go through this and then have a healthier relationship because of that. In terms of the reaction from people in general, funny enough, I got amazing reactions from those who are married. Yeah. They were like, please do this. Please, because I wish I would have done this. I wish someone told me. This is so hard. And it's crazy because and this is a little bit of, marriage in general is a taboo subject in that we don't talk much about it. And this is in our culture and outside of it. It's not something that's discussed. So people don't like to reveal when they're struggling. And I understand part of that is trying to protect the sanctity of your relationship, which I can respect. But because that's not the case and people don't want to talk about how difficult it is, you leave a lot of those who are unmarried in the shadows thinking, oh, I can do it. And then they're hit with the same reality and they don't know where to turn to or who to help. So in general, those people have been very helpful. And then you are going to get, for premarital preparation specifically, you are going to get people who are already in the mindset of, I need to prepare. Right? So these are people who already have a healthy developmental mindset. And I'm fine with that. I'm happy to take those who are already in it and just need a way to go about it, who need a system. I'm happy to take those. I'm hoping that as this happens, and this happens with any new initiative, you do it, those who are interested are going to be the first people to jump on it, those with the developmental mindset. And then those around them who see, oh, shoot, that worked, that really helped them, are going to start peeking. They're going to follow the Instagram. They're going to look up the content. They're going to watch the YouTube videos. Maybe they won't dive in completely, but eventually it'll spread because anything that's extremely beneficial, everyone has an iPhone, right?
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yeah, you got an iPhone, right? So, right, and that's, I have an iPhone too, but it became so commonplace because of how useful people found that specifically as opposed to other phones. If someone's going to apple on the comments section.
Yeah,
What do you feel
like
No,
weird
no.
people.
Hopefully they don't. We have some kind people in our
Weirdos.
comment
Hey man,
sections.
listen, don't hit the Android. I'm low key trying to get myself to convert to an Android.
That's fine. Well, the point.
Look at everybody's face, you guys.
I mean, I'm just so used to iPhone, I can't move.
But
to
the
an
point
Android
being
anymore.
is that it's seen as such a valuable thing that at this point in its convenience in the way we use
Yeah.
it, that it's now commonplace. Whereas 10 years ago it wasn't as common. Wait,
Right.
No.
No.
Yeah,
I mean, 10 years was a little bit. It was
Yeah.
common. 20.
15, 20.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Let's
Yeah.
I
do it.
mean, honestly,
Been a minute.
if I can go back, I would have made it mandatory. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Please do if you can. And I should caveat this with, not everyone has as much flexibility in the way that they're managing the way they get married. I understand that. If you can, do make it a requirement. Sorry, go ahead.
I really can't stress enough for people to know what they need to get married. A lot of people don't. For me, and I can only speak on my experiences, it was because I knew my rights and I knew like what I deserved, and I knew, and I didn't know before I got married.
Yeah.
It was not until after things weren't working out that I was able to leave the
Identify that.
situation. Yeah, and leave the situation. And it was because of that. Because to my parents, it was like, oh, well, what's going on? That's
Yeah.
not really a reason. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah.
And it's like, you guys, so the older generation, like you said before, the roles were very clear. You know what I'm saying? But now here we are. Us women, we're working. We're getting our stuff together. We have higher standards that we know we need or whatever. And we just need to understand what we're getting ourselves into.
Yeah.
And not just doing it just for,
Yeah.
the
I
actual
have a couple of personal questions. First of all, you specifically work with Muslim couples, or is it just any couples? Is it
Or people.
It's specifically
people?
It's specifically Muslims in the sense that I use an Islamic framework to guide. So it's Islamic framework built on research, right? So everything's research based, but then the framework.
With the fundamental yeah.
Exactly, is Islam. So anyone can benefit from it, but who's going to take the most benefit? Those who actually, their norms and their foundational understanding of life is Islam, right? Because if I say something like, a husband's responsibility is XYZ, someone comes and says, no, well, that's what God said.
like
So-
50-50.
Yeah, and I'm be like, you can manage your marriage like that if you want.
Yeah.
That's fine. But I'm using the Quran as my guiding force in this. So yes, mainly Muslims. That's what our mission is. Anyone else who wants to benefit and take what they can is also welcome to.
Okay, and that was my next question was, do you base your framework off of Islamic
Absolutely.
teachings and stuff
Yeah.
like that? So did you have to take Islamic classes and actually learn, or
It's been years and years of me
just doing your own?
conducting the studying, looking into the research, and
You've
so
always been-
yeah.
yeah.
So alhamdulillah. So
Alhamdulillah.
it is. You'd be very surprised at how expansive and extensive the research on this area is. Fun fact about rights: there's an entire treatise on rights written by one of the grandchildren of the Prophet ﷺ, one of the great, like further down in his generation. And one of the things he said in the treatise is one of the rights of a woman is for her husband to compliment her. What if we said right? But this is the Prophet ﷺ's lineage talking, right? So it's a lot.
Affirmations, you guys, go so far.
We really
Yeah.
Did you want to?
No, I mean,
Oh,
this
okay.
is beautiful. You
Okay, I
guys,
thought
this
you
is
could
so
move.
long. Or, you don't know how, like, it's giving me the whole time I'm here. I'm like, yes, Hannah, we need this. Get on this, you guys.
Yeah.
What were the other personal questions?
The personal one was, if someone does someone have to have insurance to meet with you and stuff like
so
that?
I don't take insurance at all. So it's not an insurable service at all. So it's pay per package
Okay.
essentially, and then classes are you pay for a ticket
Yeah.
for the class.
So
So
do
what are the
they?
pri-
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What are your prices?
So it depends on the so I haven't started the one-on-one premarital coaching, but we can actually jump to the master class right now.
Yeah,
since
that's what I was leaning
So
to.
I'm hosting a master class with About Islam, which is one of the largest Islamic websites on the internet. I've been working with them as a writer for a while, so it was kind of natural that I moved towards this work with them. And it is going to be hosted October 10th, which is a Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So adjust that to your time if you're in another area of the country. And the ticket, what is the date today? The 28th, right?
The 28th.
Yeah. So tickets are $10.
$10?
I know.
You guys, that will save you thousands of dollars. I'm just saying, in the long run.
Yeah. Courses for
I'm just saying.
courses for marriage cost hundreds of dollars. This is $10 until the end of September. So I think, how many days are in September?
Like 30.
So 2 more days to get that price. After that, it's $15 per ticket. If you are an engaged
So
couple, it's $20 altogether. So it stays $10 for you guys, essentially, if you're engaged. So the tickets can be found if you go to my Instagram at Saturn Life Coaching, click on my bio. It's going to be at the top. It's going to say premarital preparation class. Click that, and then you register, go through it. She's right. And listen, this isn't even about whether or not I make money off of this. If I had something... And this is me taking what I had to kind of learn on my own, looking into the research. This is me putting years of me, because I'm a researcher. I love to research. I love to figure out how to make things work. Taking all of that and putting that together for you guys so that you don't have to sit there struggling and run through it for years like I did. For $10, do it. Honestly,
I'm sorry, I don't know if you mentioned or not. How long is this course?
So it's 2 hours. It's
Okay.
a 2-hour
So
master
just
class.
one class.
So it's
master
one class, and we're going to go
Okay.
through the.
Yes.
We're going to break down kind of a system of how to do premarital preparation. You get 2 free gifts with it, which are really awesome. One is an ebook, which is really, really cool, from some of the top articles from some of the top writers on about Islam for marriage and family.
Beautiful.
So that's really cool. That in and of itself, I would pay like $30 for.
Right.
And then on top of that, I'm going to create a resource guide for you guys. So you guys will have so activities and resources to be able to use afterwards, which in and of itself, honestly, I would pay $20 just for that.
This is an investment to your life.
Yeah.
Well,
I say I want to normalize investing in your development, whether it's a childhood trauma stuff or the marriage, make it as normal as getting coffee for yourself, because you're not going to forget, or you're going to forget how much you spent on your development. You're not going to forget what it does for you in the future.
You know what's crazy, Hana? We're gonna have to bring you back for a segment on childhood trauma,
And trauma.
because honestly, people don't even know that exists.
Oh, you don't know what it
You
is.
can. It's recognizing what it actually is and putting the word. I remember that I just was sharing a story one time, and somebody's like, "That happened to you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were like,
you're thinking
"Oh
it's
my
normal.
God!" They're like, "Oh," and I'm like, "What the heck?" And then you listen, and it's kind of like almost in a sense where our brains can recognize it as dramatic or kind of like what I like to call fluff stuff. And I'll tell you this, like manifesting, meditation, affirmations, all of that stuff was in a bucket of what I would label as fluff stuff. It's just stuff that people did that was cute and made their life like cute or whatever, but my brain never recognized it as something to do. Now actually practicing these routines and these like regimes and stuff like that, I can honestly say it was the one thing that I was looking at as a dramatic thing, and it's now it's the thing that's holding so much like value in my life. You know what I mean? So it's very, very important. Again, like, and I think that like that we talked about this, but I do want to say this, okay? And I've been very quiet because like I said, I don't really like this conversation, but I also want to talk about, maybe we can bring her back for this one too. I want to talk about normalizing the fact that if you don't want to get married,
I'm the wrong person to bring for
Yeah.
that.
Honestly, listen,
And that's fine.
30-something.
Listen, and here we can make a note on this right now. Marriage is a sunnah that is one of the most
Right.
emphasized. Right.
Okay, hold on.
In the sense of, in the sense of the Prophet ﷺ said, those who do not marry are not following my sunnah. In essence, there are people who historically famous people in Islamic history who have not gotten married. But the reason it was a big reason in the sense of, for example, if I remember correctly, Imam Bukhari, who's a hadith scholar that we all know, had not gotten married for the sake of committing. So I agree with normalizing it, while also maintaining a certain, like, what do we push ourselves towards as well. Yeah. So
I think you want to say normalizing not settling.
100%, and that's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
Also,
I was
getting
gonna finish
married
by
to the
saying
right
to the right person, right?
Oh,
So right, I was gonna
before
finish,
that,
but
before that.
but I was like, okay, well, Hana Alasry
You
finished.
kind of
but-
like drop
yeah,
the statement
drop
and
the
then
thing. But you guys
pause.
gotta know. You guys gotta know.
We
But
were not
here's
here
the
to
thing,
settle.
though. Here's the thing, though, and I also want to say this. Like, for example, like. It was nice, and there's a lot of definitely, like, even just taking this, and mind you, I have a different perspective because, I mean, like, but, I look at this and I'm just like, like that whole vision board idea, I was like, don't want to do that. And I'll tell you why. I don't want to get my hopes up. You know what I mean? I don't want to get the idea like vision boarding and stuff like that and all of that good stuff. It comes with a lot of connotation that you also have to understand that that's a lot of self-work too. You know what I mean? That you have to deal with that doubt too, because the last thing that I want to tell these girls is to start feeling good about whatever just so you can eventually get your hopes up, because that's something that our community does a lot. Like even just being strong or whatever. And I get that all the time. Hold on. I get this all the time.
What do you mean by getting your hopes up? Explain that for me a little bit.
So like honestly, like girls be getting their hopes up. So for example, a girl in a situation that was like at my level, okay? So I'm talking about very assertive, very strong, very like leadership mentality wise, okay? If you were to tell me, Shay, 25, you would have never you're not going to be married, I'd have been like, oh my God, no. You know what I mean? I would have always thought that it was going to be like a right out of a high school thing, this, that. So then now, being 25, that whole notion of marriage has brought it down. This light around marriage is the dim around it is a lot less sparkly, if you will. You get what I mean?
I'm there.
So
I'm right there with
I
you.
just think it's very, very important to also be okay with learning how to be you in whatever timeline, time frame that is, before even thinking about somebody else. And if that means putting that person at bay or not having to think about it, then that's okay. Because I don't think there's anything wrong with my approach.
No, not
at all. Like, I don't think, like, me holding on to, like, this whole idea and, like, involving myself, I think it's, like, I just think it's overrated.
I would disagree only because you said there's nothing wrong with your. I would disagree slightly in the sense of, I feel like some of your approach is rooted in fear and trauma.
No, and I understand that it comes from trauma.
But anything that's rooted in fear and trauma is, at its core, not healthy. And so
Right.
my approach is, right, we're trying to make you the healthiest that we can, and focusing on the relationship with yourself and with another person.
So when you say like to
envision
envision like the idea, it's not necessarily to see yourself I don't know. I don't know. You guys, this conversation's hard. It's a hard one for me.
It is. And so let me explain the vision part again. The vision part is that you as an individual, you're not married. You're looking into the future and you're thinking, this is what I want my world to look like.
Okay.
Right? This is where I become the best to me. And here's how it looks. And if I can break down the specifics. Why? Because when you're able to do that, you now have something objective that you're looking at that you can say for yourself. I can't turn towards you. You can say for yourself, okay, here's what I have. Now, who can match this? Now, maybe you'll never meet that vision. Maybe you'll never get married, right? Maybe you'll die before you meet that. We can't control that.
Right.
But what we
But
can,
it's okay. It's the mentality.
Exactly.
It's the mentality shift.
What we can control is the work we do to
now,
get there.
right?
To get there, if that's what we want, and to let ourselves hope, because hope.
We want you to stay positive.
Right. It's the hope.
Hope
it's
is a beautiful thing. Hope is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us to pull ourselves through. If you damage the part of someone's brain, if they have brain trauma and they damage the part of their brain that allows them to hope,
doubt.
No. If they actually damage,
and failure ever will.
Doubt
in your head,
you will end up in a very bad place, and you will die early. Either if it's not by suicide, by other means that because of deteriorating health. So it's really important to be hopeful and to see this vision building as an essential part, because we don't do that with our marriages. You ask, and here's the thing, everyone has a vision, you just don't know how to articulate it. I'll tell you how you have a vision. I'll tell you how I know everyone has a vision. Tell someone something that you know that they're not going to accept. If I say to a girl, hey, what do you want your marriage to look like? I don't know, I just want to be happy. Okay, what if your husband is a garbage truck driver? No. What do you mean no? You just want to be happy.
Listen,
you
they
said
make
you
good
don't
money.
But
okay.
But you said you didn't.
I
have
don't
it,
know.
right?
I don't know.
I'm being silly.
But you said you don't have a vision.
Trying to lighten the mood a little bit.
The point that I'm trying to make is that you do have a vision, because I just told you something that conflicted with the vision that you didn't know you had. So, and that's not me dogging on garbage.
I know.
You
I'm
can
just, like,
accept whatever you want. Your vision is
No,
your
you're
own.
basically saying you do have an opinion. You
Intentionality.
Do have
إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Indeed, all actions are by intention. When we strip intention from what we do, we're setting ourselves up for disaster, because it is the beginning of everything that we do in our deen. So much so that nearly every hadith, I would go as far as to say, possibly every hadith book, as far as I know, starts with this hadith at the very beginning. Yes. Intentionality is a huge thing in our deen, and part of that is being willing, and it'll help you so much. Again, if it helps you to stay away from the wrong people. That's
Shayma, Allah يديلش على نيتك إن شاء الله.
I mean, you guys want to know what's crazy is and I already know it's a lot of trauma work that I already deal with, and that's why I mentioned that in the beginning. I already let it know from the jump.
Interesting that you said something interesting, which I appreciate. You said I don't want to do that. Most people don't want to do it. Nobody who wants to look at themselves in the mirror and see the ugly stuff.
Right.
Nobody wants to do it.
But like, you know what? It's not okay. So let me see if I can say the words this like how it can come out. But basically, I think that mine stems off of this big idea of unknown and the fear of the unknown. Now, I deal with the diagnosis, right? I have MS, and MS is very, you don't know.
Tricky, yeah.
You know what I mean? I literally wake up, well, you guys, today, I woke up, I couldn't see. Hold on, let me tell you guys. I woke up today, I couldn't see. I was like, what the hell's going on? It was so, it was so weird. I was like, oh, no. I literally took like 2 handfuls, one of zinc, one of vitamin C, zinc. I popped, I was like, you're going right back to bed. Like,
We're gonna try this again.
We're gonna do this one more time. So I woke up, I was like, oh, okay, today's just a glasses day, okay? Like, we're having a lot of inflammation, whatever, after, okay. But like, every day is an unknown for me. So now we're talking about something that you want to make me happy, and we have to deal with the unknown. I'm already dealing with the unknown that makes me very, very unhappy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's very hard to put that notion of thinking to something that now can to dictate happiness, where it was always dictating this this notion of fear, this notion of I don't know in my life. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like for me, like I'm listening to I was like, but you know, the type of person that I am is if it doesn't kill you, try it. Like literally, if you don't, even if you don't think that it might benefit you, try it. If somebody did the work, and this is why I appreciate Hana, because Hana is one of the few people that I can honestly say, if she's telling you guys that she's did the work, then she's done the work, because it's just the nature of who she is. So like now, if somebody that has the passion, and then somebody that did the work behind it, and they're like, you know what, Shema, what do you have to lose? Just try it. Now, when I have that mentality, and then she said that people that have developmental mindsets, when you have that, then you're more likely to do this notion, and it just becomes self-work, right? So am I going to be like, oh, absolutely no? Yeah, am I a little bit of a skeptic? Yeah, but don't you love a skeptic that you churn? Like when I use my essential oils, every single person that I use it on, and then they're like,
waiting for mine, by the way.
I have, girl, did you not just see what I just put on my stomach?
Okay.
I was just putting it all on anyway. But whenever I do, I love the skeptics. I love churning out skeptics, because those are the people that you know you're actually doing something with. Like they didn't believe in your work, and then all of a sudden now
the work speaks for itself, in a sense, and that's why in the beginning I said I can't guarantee a successful marriage. I can guarantee
self-work,
that you're going to walk in health with your partner. That's all I can guarantee. I can only guarantee what you're going to put in.
So do you think that 2 hours is enough?
2 hours I don't think 2 hours is enough. That's why it's a master class. So master class is essentially if you
like an intro.
Exactly. Like a bird's eye view. If I was to give you as much as I can in a short amount of time, that's what it is. Okay. Inshallah, maybe one day there will be a course that I sell. Inshallah.
For now on, I'm gonna be introducing my sister Abid as from 6 Mile, because some of her answers.
Listen,
I just want to share that.
It's a very stressful and
I know.
Topic. I'm just trying to lighten them.
By the way, nothing wrong with being from 6 Mile. I love 6 Mile.
There's everything wrong with being from 6 Mile.
Not at all. We're not gonna get into that. But Hana has been awesome. And
I know, Hana. We love you so much.
I
always.
just want to say another thing that's awesome is Leo's Coney Island in Royal Oak. Shout out to Leo's Coney Island and Royal Oak. That is our second sponsor today. She has delicious American. They have delicious American style food there. They're known for their conies, their fried chicken gyro, breakfast, chili, and everything else. You know, Leo conies have been around for a very long time, but the best of the best Leos to me is the one in Royal Oak. Thank you to Umar al-Halimi over there. Their number is 1248-336-8093. They're located on 10 South Main Street, Royal Oak, Michigan. If you're ever in the Royal Oak area, stop by Leo's and then give Oz Media, Fantasy Guys, Table Talk a shout out, and they might even hook you up over there. So just want to give them a shout out. Thank you so much. And before we end this show, we do want to give a final word, wrapping up everything that was said. You're getting, people are saying.
Yeah, I'm getting so much love for you.
Yeah, so many people are saying thank you for everything, and they appreciate it. And you guys can rewatch it on Oz Media 313. Later on, it'll be posted there, or you can listen to the show on Apple and Spotify podcasts under Oz Media. If you wanted to listen to it from the get-go, if you just joined us a little bit late, Hana just gave us some knowledge here. I'm going to have to rewatch it just because there's so much knowledge being passed on. So, alhamdulillah for everything. So, final word, anything you want to mention?
Final word. So, I'm a PA. I graduated with a degree to practice medicine. So, alhamdulillah, in essence, I'm okay in what I can do for the rest of my life. The reason why I started the initiative that I started and started my business was because these gaps have been present for so long in our community, and I saw that the damage that they've done. And I'm a solutions person. I appreciate what you were saying, Shema, about putting in the work. I had, long before this ever became a conception, I have been trying to do the work that I can for myself and for friends. So it's funny, like my friend, I was a premarital coach to my friends before premarital coaching was even something I knew about. So the
Advice in general, Hana.
yeah, alhamdulillah. So when it comes down to anything, when you make big decisions in your life, I hope that everyone's making the decision coming from a standpoint of health. As a medical provider, I care about health. I care about your physical health, obviously. I also care about your mental health. I care about your spiritual health, and I care about your relational health. So that's what my work does. When it comes to marriage, I really, really ask you guys, even if you're not working with me, take the time to do the work. Listen to lectures if you need to, read so you're gaining knowledge, but I want you to look yourself in the mirror. And actually, I hate when people say things like work on yourself, because it's so generic. What does it mean? That's why I believe in systems, actually systematic things that I tell you to do so you can work on yourself. So I'm going to give you something to do, okay? I want you, when you go off of this podcast, to sit down, and I want you to put 5 things that are your deal breakers, meaning 5 things that you absolutely would not accept from a partner, 5 things that you believe that you could not deal with in a marriage. If you don't have these things already, you're not ready to get married. If you don't have these things already, and this is an exercise just to help you, in essence, get your wheels turning. Am I actually ready to get married? So think about it. What are 5 things you would not deal with? When you start that, now what are 5 things you wouldn't deal with?
I'm not ready.
It's fine. There are a lot of people that are not ready, right? What are 5 things that you would not accept from yourself in a marriage? So I'm just trying to end with like a tidbit of actually an action item. This is a tiny little thing that we do in the masterclass. It's one of many things. So I really ask you guys to invest. Again, this class is $10 until the end of September, $15 after that. October 10th is when it's going to happen. You can find the link at Saturn Life Coaching. I'm sure they'll put the hashtag or the username on their page. But thank you guys for having me. Alhamdulillah, it was a really great conversation.
Yeah, I put down, check it out on Instagram, Saturn Life Coaching. I didn't put @ but I put Saturn Life Coaching. They could search that up. Hopefully that's okay.
All right.
But yeah, I will be posting everything tomorrow. Shema, any final word that you want to end it off with?
Listen, man, everybody just...
She tells people to be okay with
Listen, just, you know what? Just take it day by day. That's it. I'm gonna go home and probably have like a lot to think of. You guys gave me a lot to think about today, and I have an exam tomorrow, so thank you guys.
You're welcome. It's okay, girl. I did it too.
Abid, any final words?
Okay, so people just really, really, really think about what Hana is providing and really take it for consideration. When you get married, it's the rest of your life. Okay.
I do wanna add and piggyback on that one, Abid, though. Honestly, though, you guys are coming from a girl that, I'm gonna keep saying this probably to the day that I die. I can recognize that I have a lot of pain, I have a lot of trauma, coming from that perspective, coming from that enablement, coming from somebody that's open enough to tell you guys that she suffers, okay? And that's a big thing to say, because there's not a lot of people that will actively come out here and tell you guys that, you know what, it's normal people like us. Mm-hmm. But the fact that again, and the fact that she's saying she's systematically putting the work out for us. So all that means is you just follow it and you do it. She does all the thinking for you. So for somebody like me, again, if I have to have the mentality, why not just try it to better myself? I'm going to do that. And I want people to take that notion too. Don't think that just because this conversation is making me uncomfortable or whatnot. It's a very uncomfortable conversation, but that's what I signed up for. I signed up to get very uncomfortable, to figure out the things that are triggers for me, and so we can work on them. That's how we make ourselves the best versions of ourselves. So if this is a trigger for you, just like it's a trigger for me, do the work, just like how Hana is telling us all to do the work, but not necessarily more for like the partner or for the other person. Do it for you. Ultimately, and that's what I want to say. Honestly, find your own identity, find your own voice.
Sound effect.
Yeah, okay. I was waiting for it. Hold on.
But honestly, no. This is for you. And dang, it's like that. No, but for real, well, no. I really, 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 really want to just emphasize the fact that this is the self-work that we need to be really, really working on. It's the internal work.
Yes.
It's not this facials and I mean, listen, girl, if you got the money for that, do it. But you should also be doing internal work. I say for every 2-3 internal works you do, satisfy yourself with an external work, which is a massage or do yourself facial or elastic, whatever. But if you're not doing any type of work internal, it's kind of hypocritical to yourself.
And
Go ahead.
So basically, what I was saying, and thank you for chiming in because you took a lot, though I wanted to say was perfect. When you are getting married, you're with that person for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor, do the work, be the best version of yourself. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to lum anyone. What is lum in
Oppress. You don't want to oppress.
You don't want to oppress anyone. You don't understand how much, that other person is on you, and you don't want to have that. You don't want to hurt anyone. You don't want to ruin anyone's life. So do the work, better yourself, do the masterclass. And inshallah, with the right intentions, you'll have a happy marriage and you'll know what you're getting yourself into. It's not a joke.
All right. There you go. Sunday, October 10th is the masterclass at 1 o'clock p.m. Go to Saturn Life Coaching on Instagram.
Link in bio.
Link is in the bio. And if you want to watch this show again, it's on Oz Media 313 YouTube. You could go ahead and check it out later. Or you can listen to it on Oz Media, Apple, and Spotify podcasts. It was an awesome conversation. How do we watch the show from the beginning?
Right,
Like I
and you just...
Yeah, so Oz Media 313 on YouTube. You can search it up. You can subscribe. And we have another great talk happening next week about knowing your worth. And I think that's another important one. We have Glamour, who is turning in the whole show, just giving you a lot of shout outs as well. And she should be on the show, inshallah, next week. And another good one I'm looking forward to. And thank you all for tuning in. Thank you again, Hana, for being here. This was awesome, and we learned a lot.
Barakallah feekum.
And give me inshallah. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all next week.